Good morning, class. This is Professor Joseph Holbrook. We're going to continue talking about economics today. And our topic today is specifically economic challenges facing the United States. This is taken from Hunt and Colander, Chapter 17, Hunt and Colander's Introduction to Social Science. So there have been, in what's called the free market cycle, there have been many booms and busts in the United States history. United States economy since about 1680, beginning with tobacco crops. There was a sharp rise in demand for tobacco, which resulted in an increase in tobacco cultivation, which then resulted in a drop in price in tobacco, and some farmers went bust with a recession, the first recession in the continental United States, or at least the continental colonies, English colonies. Since 1790, there have been 47 recessions in the United States. About every 20 years, there's either a recession or a depression, and the most recent being the Great Recession of 2008. Let me just point out that if you are 21, or let's say if you're 20 years old, there's a good chance you may live to see 3 or 4 recessions in your lifetime. That has certainly been true in my life. And this is an example where history can benefit you. If you learn to expect occasional economic downturns, you can prepare for them, and they can be opportunities. So here is a Wikipedia article listing the recessions in the United States, and there's a whole list of these 47 different recessions that has happened. A definition of an economic depression. It's a sustained economic recession in which the gross national product is falling and is marked by low production and sales and a high rate of business failures and unemployment. This is taken from Depressions and Panics in American History, 24/7 Wall Street. And there's a list there of the 13 worst recessions in American history. Now, this is a timeline of the S&P Standard & Poor's Historical Composite from 1871 to the present, adjusted by inflation. You see lows and highs. 1877 was a low, 1906 was a high, then back down 1921, which was actually before the Great Depression. It was a pretty severe recession. Then back up in 1929 until you get to the point in October when the great market crash happened, and then you have a drop, a severe depression lasting through the late 1930s, actually. 1937, we're back up. World War II begins, and 1949, World War II is over, and we have a sustained period of economic growth up until 1968. And then we have another series of downturns through the early 1980s, the Carter-Reagan years, and then another period of sustained growth until 2000 with the dot-com bubble. And then there's another collapse. There's actually been 2 severe ones since 2000. So that would be 2 in the last 15 years. So this proves my point that you can expect recessions in your lifetime. 2 or 3 or 4, maybe even 5. Here's a history of depressions in the United States. There was the Depression of 1807. There was another one in 1837, a depression in 1873. Remember, now we're talking about depressions, not recessions. There was a depression of 1893. Then there was the Great Depression from 1929 through 1939, and that's a list of the depressions. The government's role in the economy includes an indirect and direct role. The indirect is setting the rules by which the market must play and regulating the economy. The direct role is spending. The more the government spends, the more it stimulates the economy. The less it spends, the more the economy can stagnate. And also taxing to pay for spending. This is why there's so much controversy over raising taxes or cutting spending. You hear one of these 2 options. One major party advocates raising taxes, especially on the rich, The other party advocates cutting spending for the most part. There are also costs and benefits of regulation, government regulation we're speaking about. Some of the costs is that it may restrict actions, it may prevent activities which benefit others, and it's costly. Sometimes it may be harder to launch a new business or to operate a small business if there's too much regulation. On the other hand, there's also benefits from government regulation. It protects the public. When you go to Publix to buy meat, you can rest assured that it's been USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, has inspected it and approved it as fit for public consumption. It limits potentially harmful activities. You can hope for good, clean drinking water because of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. It ensures fairness, such as checks on Wall Street, something we were lacking in 2008 because Congress had removed some of the regulations on the banking industry. Here's figure 17.2 shows how the government spends its money. On the left, 20% goes for national defense, 21% for Social Security, Medicare is 13%, health is 10%, interest payments is 8.7%, income, security, and other. And then over here you see public welfare, education, administrative, health and hospitals, and highways. This is state spending, whereas the left is federal. This is the state spending. So you see that the states spend quite a bit on administrative and education as well as public welfare. Here's where the government gets its money. In the federal level, 48% comes from income tax. 36% comes from Social Security. Corporate income tax is 13%. Then you have an excise tax and other. And over here, the state revenue, you have income tax, sales tax, intergovernmental, insurance, trust, and other. So there are some controversial roles of government. For example, income redistribution. Examples of income redistribution would be long-term patents and copyrights, broadcast rights, licensing, taxing, and spending policies. There's also the Social Security system, which has a macroeconomic role, which is a consideration of the good of society as a group, and it's overseen by the executive branch. The Social Security system, the first Social Security system was implemented in Germany in 1889. And then in the United States, it was not until 1935 that the U.S. Social Security Act was passed in the midst of the Great Depression. There was also a Federal Insurance Contributions Act, and benefits were paid by current contributions. It led to problems when benefits were increasing faster than the contributions, which is the situation we have today. Not originally established as a retirement system, but rather as an income supplement. In other words, what that meant was Social Security is not enough to retire on. There's also monetary and fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is using the government budget surplus or deficit to influence the level of spending and income. This is what was done in 2009 after the election of Barack Obama. Congress and Obama passed a government stimulus bill that was intended to increase government spending in order to stimulate the economy. And to some extent, it appears to have worked because unemployment has fallen and the economy is working at a higher level today than it was in 2009. Monetary policy is primarily from the Federal Reserve Bank, and it varies the level of money and credit in the economy to affect the level of income. You hear them make announcements periodically about whether or not they're going to increase or decrease interest rates or leave them the same. Some economic challenges. Fiscal crisis is an increase in deficits and debt that threatens the financial stability of government. Many people are concerned right now about the extremely high levels of debt that the United States has accrued since 9/11. We spent over $1 trillion that we are in debt for on military spending. There's also been an increase in deficit from the government stimulus. Programs such as Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security are not entirely funded, and they keep increasing the government deficit. So there's only two ways to deal with a fiscal crisis, and that is to cut spending or raise taxes. One or the other must be done.
The $100 bill, the most counterfeited money denomination in the world, keeps the globe moving. This is what 10 grand looks like. Enough for a great vacation or to buy a used car. Approximately 1 year of work for the average human on Earth. You're looking at $1 million. Not as big a pile as you thought. Still, this is 92 years of work for the average human being. This is $100 million. Plenty to go around for everyone. Fits nicely on a standard size pallet. $1 billion. You'll definitely need some help robbing a bank. Now we're getting serious. And the Mac Daddy, $1 trillion. Now, when the U.S. government speaks about a $1.7 trillion deficit, this is the volume of cash the U.S. government borrowed in 2010 alone to run itself. Now, keep in mind, it is double-stacked pallets of $100 million each, full of $100 bills. Now, you're going to need a lot of trucks to freight this around. If you spend $1 million a day since Jesus was born, you would not have spent $1 trillion by now. Unless the U.S. government fixes the budget, U.S. national debt will top $15 trillion by Christmas of 2011. But the numbers get much, much worse. The U.S. unfunded liabilities has reached $114.5 trillion. Now to the right, you can see the pillar of cold hard $100 bills that will dwarf the World Trade Center and Empire State Building. Both at one point were the tallest buildings in the world. The $114.5 trillion super skyscraper is the amount of money the U.S. government knows it does not have to fully fund the Medicare prescription drug program, Social Security, military, and civil servant pensions. It is the money the USA knows that will not have to pay all its bills. Now, if you live in the USA, this is your personal credit card bill. You are responsible along with everyone else to pay this back. The citizens of the USA created the U.S. government to serve them. This is what the U.S. government has done while serving the people.
So that's a little bit of a scary video. And here's another one. But I'm going to pass on this one for the sake of time and go on to globalization is another challenge facing the U.S. economy. A natural process of economic integration. Globalization causes shifting, including means and areas of production, away from the U.S. The law of one price results in an increase in competition. Global warming is another major concern. There has been controversy about the science. Not everyone is convinced that global warming is man-made, although there is many people who are convinced. Global warming may be caused by an over-reliance on carbon-based fuels. Costs must be considered by decision makers. The United States uses a market-based approach to dealing with global warming. Another significant problem that we're facing in the United States is illegal immigration. Labor supply and wage imbalance due to globalization and NAFTA. NAFTA is the North American Free Trade Agreement. At least 11 million illegals are living in the United States. What should we do? There's been a political deadlock over the solution. Republicans and most conservative Democrats are opposed to any kind of pathway to citizenship for those that are here. Uh,